Good morning. I wonder if people can hear me. I assume they can. I am S.J. Morrison, Managing Director of Madison County Transit, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2025 MCT Trail Summit. Today, we're going to be exploring trail-oriented development. So I'm thrilled that so many of you are logging in. I know that it's just now 9 o'clock, so I'm going to start in just a second, but I also have a tight time frame and a lot we want to cover. We also want to be respectful of your time as well. So, all right, so very good. By the way, who plans a virtual trail summit on such a beautiful day? We are definitely doing this outside or in person next year, but we wanted to bring in as many folks as we could. We're going to go ahead and get started. One housekeeping item quickly. There is an opportunity for you to ask questions and make comments, and we hope you do. There is a Q&A button that you can press and post your comments, and we will receive those and we can address those questions. There will be a Q&A portion at the end too, where we're going to get to as many of the questions as we can. So, all right, we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to take a moment and thank the MCT and ACT boards for their ongoing support of everything that we're trying to do at Madison County Transit. And I know we have several with us today. In the interest of time, I'm not going to list all of the elected officials, the municipalities, the nonprofit organizations, the public bodies, the trail advocates, the staff that are all here with us today. But thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. All right, before we dig into trail-oriented development, I want to give you a quick overview of the MCT trail system. Madison County Transit, as most of you know, is more than just a trail organization. We are a public transportation organization. We operate in 16 townships in Madison County. Our fixed route green and white buses, our runabout paratransit service. We also operate the Ride Finders Carpool Vanpool program, and of course, the MCT trails. So our vision for the MCT trails goes back to my predecessor, Jerry Kane, and his vision to develop an interconnected system of bikeways back in the 1990s that not only preserved these vital rail corridors as they were being abandoned, but it also developed these fantastic trails, these transportation corridors, and these recreational trails that have become a quality of life amenity in the communities that we serve. We have an interconnected network of trails, as many of you know. It's a 138-mile system, and unlike some systems that are just out and back linear systems, ours are very interconnected. So it forms a series of 12 loops, maybe more if you're using some on-road connectors. Again, our trail system spans 138 miles of separated Class 1 bikeways connecting 20 communities in Madison County and into St. Clair County and Macoupin County. I think this is an important slide to let folks know that, again, these are Class 1 bikeways, which means they are totally separated from the roadway. It's not a bike lane. These are shared use paths that makes the experience safe for all users. It's a stress-free recreation, fitness, and commuting option. Madison County Transit has been committed to few at-grade crossings. We have 50 bridges and 22 tunnels throughout our system. And again, the goal is to make this system usable for trail goers of all ages, skills, and abilities. Our trails form linear parks. Many of our rights of way are 50, 100, and 200 feet wide. And as a result, not only do they meander through a series of natural landscapes, the river, woods, the prairies, the bluff line, and so on, but the trails themselves are greenways and form close to 1,600 acres of green space in Madison County. Of course, we integrate trails and transit. We have bike racks on all of our fixed route buses, and many of our trailheads are also bus stops. All right, I want to take you through a few recently completed projects, MCT Trails projects. First, our MCT Yellowhammer Connector Trail and Bridge. This is located just off the SIUE campus, and it connects the MCT Goshen Trail, which in many ways is the spine of our system, to the SIUE Delight Morris Trail. This was a critical missing link to make that connection to this portion of the campus. And thanks to a Rebuild Illinois grant and a lot of fine engineering work, we were able to build this tremendous valley and make this connection with this 200-foot bridge over the Delaplane Branch Creek, and take advantage of portions of the old Yellowhammer streetcar line, which is where it gets its name. In 2023, actually, at the end of 2023, we opened the Schoolhouse Tunnel under 157 in Collinsville, near the Culvers. This was not only funded by MCT, but funded in part thanks to our friends at the Metro East Park and Recreation District, who I know we have some board members, and we have Brian Warner, the executive director, on the call today. This was a critical connection, a critical tunnel to separate pedestrians and cyclists from 157. The Jerry Kane Plaza. This is, again, I mentioned Jerry Kane, our former managing director. This was really a small gesture compared to all that Jerry did for the trail system, for the transit district, and for Madison County in developing the trails and literally willing them into being, finding the funding, preserving the corridors. And so we've created a little plaza there at the LeClaire Park and Ride lot in Edwardsville with a pavilion, some benches, and a panel that tells Jerry's story and tells the story of the MCT trails. We're still putting the finishing touches on Jerry Kane Plaza, but we're hoping to open it in June of this year. All right, some current projects that we have in the works. The 111 Schoolhouse Bridge. So this is a signature bridge. This is a tied arch structure that will take trail goers on the MCT Schoolhouse Trail. This is 111 and Horseshoe Lake Road. And this is a massive undertaking, a 2,500-foot long span. But as those of you who use the Schoolhouse Trail know, this is a dangerous crossing, a dangerous intersection. And so we are thrilled to be, again, elevating the pedestrians and the cyclists over the road, and doing so with such a stunning bridge. And we will be partnering with MEPRD on this project and pursuing other funds like the FTA Raise Grant funds to pay for this. The Ridge Prairie Trail, some of you may have heard us refer to this as the Formosa West Trail, which is sort of our construction name for it, but we will be calling it the Ridge Prairie Trail. And it extends from the MCT Goshen Trail, which is the blue line here on the right. And that, of course, goes all the way down to O'Fallon. But it extends on a portion of the old Pennsylvania Railroad. So we have assembled this great corridor along Canteen Creek, reassembled it, I should say, and are making the connection to the Collinwood neighborhood in Collinsville. And this is a project that is funded in large part by MEPRD as well. The Confluence Trail reconstruction. This construction project actually began Monday of this week. This is a 2.6-mile segment of the Confluence Trail that is showing its age. And so MCT and our board made the decision that it was time to reconstruct this portion of the trail roughly in Hartford. And this is going to be a vast improvement. Again, for those of you who utilize the Confluence Trail, this is a segment of the trail that needs some help. So we're happy to be starting to begin to reconstruct portions of the trail. And again, what's cool about this project is that it's referred to as a full depth pavement reclamation, which means we're going to be using some of the existing surface and base and then resurfacing. All right, some other MCT Trails initiatives that we have in the works. Some of you know about our commemorative tree and bench program. that we launched back in 2021 that allows you to recognize a loved one, a business, an organization with a tree or bench along the trail. It's been fairly popular so far, and we're always looking for more opportunities for benches and trees on the trails. We've been providing police patrol bikes for many years, but so far we've provided 25 ruggedized police bikes to 9 different Madison County communities, as well as SIUE, Lewis and Clark, and the Madison County Sheriff's Department. So not only does that allow these officers to get out of their squad cars and into onto the trails, but also into the neighborhoods of those communities. We've been adding interpretive panels throughout our system. We started in Glen Carbon along the Ron Foster Heritage Trail with 17 full-color historic panels, and have continued to expand this program with some history and some other ways of interpreting various elements of the MCT trails. And of course, the Trail Critters, the very popular Art on the MCT Trails initiative. 2 years ago, we started with 8 Trail Critters, and we have added 4 more. Corey and Harry. Corey, of course, there by the Confluence Tower. Harry, the historic highway hound located just south of Hamel along Route 66. We also added Tracy, the Tri-Cities Triceratops, off Route 3 in the Granite City area, and Squeak, the squirrel, the squirrely squire of Canteen Creek, right there off the Goshen Trail near Loyette Road, and interestingly, very close to where the Ridge Prairie Trail is going to be intersecting with the Goshen Trail. I just want to take a second and talk about our BeeWorks partnership. As many of you know, St. Louis BeeWorks is a nonprofit organization that is working to not only bring refurbished bikes to young people, but is also committed to teaching kids about bike safety and how to operate and maintain their bikes properly. And so wearing my Agency for Community Transit hat, we have been awarding grants to organizations in Madison County for the Earn a Bike program, which allows organizations and municipalities to help 12 young people, 12 kids essentially, learn how to maintain their bike, to fix a flat tire, to work on the chain, to work on the brakes, so on and so forth. And at the end of this program, they are given a bike helmet and a bike lock. And so we're really proud of this partnership. We're also in the month of May, to celebrate National Bike Month, collecting refurbished bikes. And not only can you drop them off here at the MCT base of operations in Pontoon Beach, but we're partnering with a series of libraries throughout Madison County, and you can drop off your bikes at those libraries. We will pick them up and take them to BeeWorks so that they can be refurbished. We've all got bikes in the garage probably that could benefit, that a young person could benefit from receiving. So please consider doing so. If you want a full list of the libraries that are participating, you can visit our website, mcttrails.org, and click on the link for Bike Month and get more information about that. All right, some future MCT Trails projects. This is always the fun part. Our nature trail reconstruction. I just talked about a portion of the trails that we are reconstructing on the Confluence Trail. This is another portion that is showing its age. The nature trail, essentially from the south end of the SIUE campus where the Bluff Trail intersects, south to Mockingbird Lane in Granite City. And this portion of the trail is approaching 30 years old and also needs some work. In addition to the resurfacing, this is really a mill and overlay, but in portions of the trail, a full reconstruct. So we're going to be replacing 2 bridges and then rehabbing 2 of our existing bridges with a new decking. We're eliminating the wood decking and creating a fiber reinforced polymer decking. I know what you're thinking. Is this new deck going to be slippery? It's our belief that it won't be, that it actually is going to be less slippery and obviously much easier to maintain. It's not going to deteriorate in the same way that the wood decks do. The wood decks look great, but obviously they're kind of a maintenance mess. So we are hoping to get started on this project maybe later this year even. And it's funded through a partnership with Ameren, and we will be seeking MEPRD funds to take care of a portion of this reconstruction. But again, working to not just expand the trails, but also reconstruct portions of the trails. The Nature Trail in Granite City, this is a portion of the trail that for many years has been located on an alley. And cyclists had to compete with garbage trucks and motorists on this portion of the alley. And we were approached by Granite City about moving the trail and separating the trail off the alley onto a separate alignment. So this is the nature trail between Namioki Road and Kate Street, that little connection that takes you eventually up to Woodland Park. Not Woodland Park, to the park in Granite City. I am sorry that I'm blanking on it right now. But Woodland Park is in Collinsville. So, all right. At any rate, this is the nature trail, and we are hoping to get started on this next year. The Formosa East Trail, this is the Goshen Trail again, and if you look to the left of the Goshen Trail, that is where the Ridge Prairie Trail is, and to the right or to the east is where we will be extending the Formosa East Trail. What's exciting about this project is that it includes a bridge over US 40 connecting to the Silver Creek Trail, which means that the entire city of Troy and the eastern portion of Madison County will now be connected to our trail system. So very excited about making this connection. We are getting closer to finalizing the land acquisition, which, by the way, is obviously always the most time-consuming portion of trail development. And so thrilled to be making this connection, and hopefully you will see more about this in the near future. Wood River. We're working with the city of Wood River to find a way to connect the city to our Riverbend Trail and to the Confluence Trail, and believe that we have found an opportunity through Camp Dubois there, which of course is where the Lewis and Clark expedition left, under Route 3, and then making a connection to the Riverbend Trail. We are still in the process of an alignment study and to determine the exact route, which is why you have that nice red arrow there. But this is a project that we are planning to partner with the city of Wood River on. And again, excited about connecting more communities, more rooftops, more destinations to the MCT trails. The MCT Goshen Trail to Bethalto. Multi-phase, multi-million dollar, multi-mile project. And it essentially will connect the western end of the MCT Goshen Trail there at Wanda Road and Old Alton Edwardsville Road to Bethalto. How are we going to do that? Well, that's a good question. A portion of this trail is going to run through the Phillips 66 Park there, and through an agreement with Phillips 66, we will be constructing that trail. And then north along Wanda Road, and then tunneling under 143. From 143 up to Belk Park and up to Bethalto and 140, that exact route has yet to be determined. We are still in the process of an alignment study, but I am happy to say that we are very close to nailing down all of the property required for phase 1 of this project. So more information to come in the very near future, but very excited to extend the trail north to more communities in Madison County. Alton Trails, a couple of different projects we have going on in Alton. First of all, we're going to be improving a portion of the Riverfront Trail that runs the Confluence Trail that runs along the riverfront. So there are portions of it that are now on road that we're going to be separating from the road with a proper shared use path or a separated Class 1 bikeway. And our goal is to make the connection to the bike ped bridge that extends over Landmarks Boulevard and over to Broadway. In addition to that, we are working on what we call the Alton Greenway, which is a project that will extend from the bike ped bridge west on Broadway to Piasaw, a 10-foot wide shared use path for the city of Alton. And again, this is a major multi-phase project that we think will be an improvement to bike ped access for the city of Alton. Proud to be partnering with them. Venice Shared Use Path. This is a project that is funded in part thanks to a congressionally directed spending from U.S. Senator Dick Durbin. And this is to the first leg of a project that is trying to connect the Schoolhouse Trail to the Confluence Trail. And so one of the ways that we're going to be doing this is working with Venice and working with the Venice Park District, build this shared use path from Broadway essentially through Lee Park up Klein to Bissell. And this will connect not only to a lot of houses, but to the park, to the city hall, and to some other amenities that are coming in the very near future to Venice. Again, this is one phase of this project to try to connect the Schoolhouse Trail to the Confluence Trail. As we began looking at this alignment and trying to determine what's the best way to do this, we also made the decision that it's important to not just make a trail connection, but also improve bike pedestrian access in this community. And so that's how you're going to see us proceeding, is it's not just about making a connection, it's about trying to improve pedestrian access in Venice. All right, trail-oriented development. And I realize I'm already 2 minutes over. I'm surprised my staff hasn't thrown anything at me yet. That's sort of what we're here to talk about today. But before we do that, I want to take a second and talk about the economic impact of trails and the big picture impact of trails. The National Association of Realtors just came out with a great report that living near trails and greenways actually raises property values an average of 3 to 5% and can raise it as high as 15%, depending upon the area. That is an incredible statistic. For years, the National Association of Realtors has been saying that access to walking and biking trails is one of the #1 top 2 amenities, honestly, sought after by new home buyers. And that has been the case for the last 15, 20 years. And so we're proud to be, again, bringing these trails to more communities, to more neighborhoods, and so on. So increasing property values is a big portion of this. And then, of course, increasing retail sales, which is in part what we're here to talk about today. A study came out last year that the outdoor rec economy in the US generates $887 billion annually. What we know is that the metropolitan areas that have embraced outdoor recreation in a meaningful way are the areas that are growing, are the areas that are attracting people of all ages, by the way. Baby boomers, retirees who are looking for high quality of life, down to young couples and singles that are wanting to locate in an area, families wanting to locate in an area that has access to these amenities. Bike tourism, as you can see on the slide there, alone in the US accounts for $83 billion in trip-related spending. And we're going to talk about the Katy Trail in Missouri. I saw a great stat this week that just the western half of Missouri's Katy Trail generates $3 million annually in local revenue. So who are the touring cyclists? Who are the people that travel to bike? What we found is that they are individuals with discretionary income. 82% of cyclists who travel to bike are college educated. 52 is the average age, which means there are certainly retirees with discretionary income that are a big portion of this group. And 58% earn more than $75,000 annually. So that there is discretionary income to come to a community, to bike, to stay at hotels and Airbnbs and VRBOs, but also to eat, to shop, to visit local cultural attractions, et cetera. The community of impact of trails probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. It improves the quality of life. Not only are they promoting physical activity and improving wellness, but communities with trails are safer communities because you have more people walking and biking. You have more eyes and ears on the street and on the trail. Obviously, it's a very affordable, family-friendly recreation option. But studies show that trails even strengthen the identity of a community and the identity of a neighborhood if there is access to trail. It gives a way for people to interact on a one-on-one basis, which, although here we are, meeting virtually, I'm a big proponent of one-on-one communication. Clearly, trails, especially the MCT trails, protect and preserve natural habitats for plants and animals. And trails support alternative transportation options, which is important for us as a transportation agency. We're seeing more and more individuals biking to class, biking to work, and using the trails as well as neighborhood streets for errands. So trails is the growth strategy. Headwaters Economics has come out with a great report that speaks in depth about this, but I want to hit a couple of high notes. And if you look at that pullout quote there, you'll see what I'm talking about. Literally found that counties with strong outdoor recreation economies attract new residents and experience faster income growth compared to those without. The proof is in the pudding. People are choosing where to live based on quality of life factors. As COVID taught us, you can work from home, you can work remotely and live anywhere. And our communities need to be livable, and a big piece of livability. Obviously, they need to be safe, clean. They need to offer, basic amenities, but people are looking for more. They're looking for outdoor recreation. And what this study found was communities with well-developed trail networks retain, they attract local businesses because businesses want to be where the people are. And so all of those, are happy little byproducts of trail development. Okay, so let's talk about trail-oriented development. Trail-oriented development is a very specific type of development. It's a land use strategy that centers around creating development that is geared or oriented to trail systems. It focuses, as you can see on the slide, on compact, walkable, bike-friendly development, again, that is oriented to the trail. The trail is not the afterthought. It's not just a spur from the trail that dumps you in a parking lot. The trail it actually leverages the trail in a meaningful way. The trail is the goal. And it could be a variety of different types of development options: housing, retail, recreation. It could be cultural attractions. And it connects the trails to key destinations and transit. So you might be asking, why does Madison County Transit care? Well, we are always looking for ways to add destinations, to add value to our trail system, and to get more users on the trails. What this also does is it encourages trail users to consider taking the trail to get to a destination as their travel mode, as opposed to getting in the car. Now, I think what you'll find this morning is that trail-oriented developments don't need to be exclusively trail access only. Many of these developments have public parking or parking nearby or right behind the facilities. So we're not advocating that these are places that you can only walk or bike to. But I think what you'll find is that if you engage in trail-oriented development, that more and more people will want to walk and bike there. And we believe that that's an important piece of why we're doing this. So some features of trail-oriented development. Again, thoughtful infrastructure and design elements that support trail access. Mixed-use buildings. So buildings that include housing and include retail and restaurants and cultural amenities close to the trails. Safe, direct trail connections and crossings. So again, not dumping a cyclist or a family or a pedestrian in a parking lot, but actually bringing people to the development in a safe manner. Other features: bike parking, lighting, wayfinding, rest areas, and of course, green spaces, plazas, and outdoor gathering areas. Again, this is something that we have seen in other parts of the country work so successfully, and in many ways, it has changed the culture and has spurred both economic development and community development. And so one of our goals is to not only inform communities, stakeholders, and developers and business folks about trail-oriented developments, but we also hope to inspire you. We hope to inspire you to pursue this type of development in your community. So with that, there's some contact info for Madison County Transit. I realize I went very quickly and I still went over my time. And I see that there are also some comments in the chat. Anything, guys, I need to address right now? Okay, very good. All right, so I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. We've got some fantastic panelists here today to talk about their experiences with trail-oriented development. Our first panelist is Dan Tripp. Dan, are you with us? While he is joining, Dan is the co-owner of Good News Brewing, which is a brewing company and a restaurant group with multiple locations, originally started in O'Fallon, Missouri. And one of his locations is on the Katy Trail, and we are in Missouri. And we're excited for Dan to tell us a little bit about his experience with trail-oriented development and why it's been a good move for his business. And Dan, I understand that you are also partnering with a group that's going to be opening up a Good News Brewing in Madison County.
Yes, we are. I'll share that. I'll share a short story of a Good News Brewing Company. I'm a teacher by trade. I still am a teacher. I teach an entrepreneurship class now. I wanted to be a principal, and I finally became a principal, and I hated it. Wasn't my calling. I always had the dream of opening up just a place that would have beer and pizza. I also got into the endurance, sports. I got involved with triathlon clubs. I did an Ironman. And I learned real quickly that people who are in endurance sports love craft beer. So that was great because I was a home brewer, and so I'd bring my beer to the homebrew club meetings. I finished the Ironman in 2016 in Chattanooga, and I got my tattoo because if you do an Ironman, you have to get a tattoo. And I remember the day I got my tattoo, my friends, I was so tired because I was getting full sleeve tattoo. My friends like, hey, come to Friendship Brewery. It's a new brewery in Winsville. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I know that brewery. I know those guys because I was part of that homebrew club. And I went there and they invited me back into the brewery, and I'm looking around. I'm like, this is my dream. Like, if these guys could do it, these home brewers do it. And I just did an Ironman. I could open up a brewery now. And so the very next day after that, I went to our local homebrew supply store and said, hey, we want to open up a brew pub, spot possibly next to you. And they said, well, you can't because we already have that space, rented out, but we're looking for people to brew beer with us. So we ended up forming a name, coming up with a logo, a website. That relationship went south, so we ended up getting a little small location in North O'Fallon, opened it up. We were a huge success. We were selling more beer than we could make. We had to use another brewery to make our beer for us. And a lot of my friends from the triathlon clubs were our best customers. And there was no trail there. It was a little North O'Fallon, Missouri area. But we started doing like pub runs. And we would have a huge turnout of people who would show up for these, pub runs. They would run around the neighborhood. We'd give them a free beer. I saw a change of the cycling community was moving towards getting away from roads and going to trails. The Katy Trail is, in St. Charles County, and a lot of them started switching their bikes over to gravel bikes. And one of my friends said, hey, there's this place down in Defiance, a barbecue place that's for sale. I was like, I know exactly what place that is. They said it's for sale. We went down there, made an offer, and this was around 2018, 2019. So we opened in 2019, the end of the year, and it was gangbusters. People were so excited to have a place that they could, a bike friendly place. The people who were the owners there before weren't really supportive of the cycling community. And so people knew that when we were there, I think the craft beer also then supported that. And it was just a huge success. Following year, 2020, we were, obviously shut down for a little bit. We're worried about what was going to happen there. Unfortunately, being on the trail and being in St. Charles County in an outdoor space, COVID was actually one of the best things that ever happened to us. We had people from St. Louis, Illinois, driving over. We had a little park next to us, so people would get their beer and pizza and go. You bring tents and they would hang out. During that year, you couldn't even buy a bicycle, so that helped put us on the map and helped us with some additional funds. We then expanded that and bought the Augusta Brew House, which is also on the Katy Trail. And then a year or so later, which I am right now in St. Charles, Frenchtown, we have a place here, and this is kind of on the Katy Trail. The Katy Trail is like a block and a half away from us right now, but there's a fence that's dividing us. So I think what I would want to share, what's the most important thing is, it is community. Just having a space on a trail doesn't, I don't think, there's lots of places down in wine country that are on the trails. And I don't see all the cyclists. Why is because, I'm involved in the community. We will support and any cycling event or running group, last week, the St. Peter's Recplex had a triathlon. Well, I was there pouring beer for all the finishers. Those things you need to go to your audience and you know your niche, and we know our niche pretty well, and they show up. We do a lot of other types of community type projects where a lot of people ask us for fundraisers, and I don't just like giving a percentage of sales because I really don't get a full proof of does that really work or not. What we like to do is if a organization wants to do a fundraiser, we'll tell them, yeah, come to the brewery, and if they pay you a donation, we'll give you a free token for a free drink. And so then they're giving the money to the organization, and sometimes they're getting bigger checks than just us giving them 10 or 15%. And that brings people there. It brings groups there. A lot of times it's just walking and hiking on the trails as well, not always cyclists. We find those to be a success. Another thing is we partner with a lot of the timing companies. So used to be Fleet Feet, now it's Start to Finish. We do a Thirsty Thursday. So once a month, they do a full 5K on the Katy Trail, and they'll bring 100 people, and we just do we give them a free drink. They do a pizza buffet, and then we just have some small groups. So just small little clubs, just they'll show up here on a Thursday night. Every Thursday night they're out running on the trail here, and we'll just give them a little discount for that. So it's definitely the community part of what makes it successful. I don't think it's just having a place on the trail. It's you have to engage with the people who are going to be using the trail is what's helped us to be successful. So talking about development, I'm getting ready to open a new location this Friday, and it's in Wildwood, Missouri. And Wildwood was a target for us because that's where a lot of our customers are already from. People who were leaving Wildwood to go to Defiance to ride on the Katy Trail. There's unfortunately not a lot of trails there that are there's a lot of walking trails, but not there's tons of cyclists, but that's where our customers are. So we are going to them now, and so I'm looking for future locations. We've learned quickly that we're opening our 5th location here, this week, but we've learned you need to be there. You need to support that community, and it helps to have the owner there being part of those events. So we've learned a new model that we're moving forward through is franchising. And so our first franchise location is going to be in Alton and the Post Commons. So it's an interesting story too. There's some articles out there. I won't go into that right now, but we're going to be there. I wish there were more trails. I see there are going to be some trails coming to Alton from the presentation here, so that's good. But I do know a lot of people who go out to Alton to hike and to ride, and so I think we're going to be able to take our audience and bring them there to that location. And so if there's ever any other future locations that people are looking for trails, I think that's something that is a target for us as well. So I'll end it there. I know if anyone has any questions, or do you have any questions?
No, that's great, Dan. And your point is really well taken, which is, yes, location matters, locating on the trails, but you need to build a culture.
Yep.
You can't just open up and expect people to come and to keep coming back every time. I've heard a restaurateur say once that every time somebody comes in the door, you need to be re-educating them on why they are coming into your place and building that relationship and so on and so forth. So sounds like you're doing a phenomenal job. Well, I appreciate your time. Participants, if you have questions for Dan, put those in the Q&A and we will get to those. Dan, we're thrilled you're coming to Madison County. That's really exciting. And Post Commons is a very cool location. So thank you so much. All right. We've got some other folks with us. We have Dave Kennedy with us. Dave is the city manager for Loveland, Ohio, and he has been for the last 10 years. Following a 25-year tenure with the village as village administrator in New Richmond, Ohio. Dave and Loveland have a great story to tell regarding the Miami Valley Trails. And so it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dave Kennedy. Dave, are you with us?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
So, hang on a second, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I've spent 10 years with a community that I've spent 10 years with a community that pretty much embraces everything there is about the bike trail, and I actually spent 25 years with a community to this day is still longing to be a part of the trail. The city of Loveland, just for those of you who know, we're a suburb of the Cincinnati area. We're a northeast community of Cincinnati, large bedroom community. And the Little Miami Scenic Bike Trail literally dissects the middle of our downtown. The trail, which is 78 miles long, is actually one of the first rails to trails in the United States. We had 2 active railways. We now have one, goes right past City Hall. Actually, if I'm talking and the windows start to shake, the train is going by. It is right outside my window here. And actually, the first section of the trail was in Loveland to Morrow. That was in 1984. And there's, as you can see, there's multiple communities that border it. They advertise about 1.5 million users annually. It's probably more than that. When we say it dissects the middle of our town, it dissects the middle of our town. The usage of they do trail counts. The Friends of Little Miami State Park largely run sort of the day-to-day operation, and I'll talk to you about that partnership that we do, but we see about 225,000 people, and this is people that come into our city one way or another through the usage of our bike trail. And I will also say that I've been here for 10.5 years as a city manager. I can't say we always embrace the trail. I would say that we sort of pouted a little bit. We got restrooms, damn garbage cans, all the other little things. And we had a bit of an epiphany that, believe it or not, was actually 2017. We had a massive fire in our downtown district, devastated 3 of the oldest buildings we have in town. All 3 were very prominent restaurants. And it was beyond explanation. And this town rallied like I've never seen anything before. I remember thinking, my goodness, how is this going to recover? The city was actually trying to help fund to brace the structures. They had no roofs and they had no floors, and actually working with it. And from that 2017 fire, the city actually just really, I think, came together and began to realize we need to punctuate this trail every which way we can, and realize that the benefits outweigh so much more. And through this times of years, we just sort of went through the theory of, back in the old days, you know, they used to say the Sears was the anchor to the mall. We started to realize and strengthen our relationship with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Friends of Little Miami State Park. You got to remember, we also have the Little Miami River, which is a national scenic river, runs right in downtown. This trail, the Little Miami Bike Trail, follows the trail for the vast majority, follows the river for the vast majority of it. And actually, the Conservancy's headquarters are right in our downtown district. So we sort of embrace the river and how it must be protected. But this is a very common aspect. This is actually we're Loveland, so we have a Valentine's Ladies program that is very prominent. Every year there's a Miss Valentine's. We worked with ODNR to create a sort of a memorial to our Valentine's Ladies program, and this is front and center. And this is all part of it. This would have largely been hidden. There would have been bushes. We would have never realized that we want to show off everything there is about the town. When we also, a big part of what we do is our special events, and we actually have a separate website called Love and Life Loveland that is just allows us to get away from the governmental side and sort of talk about all the different things that are going in town, special events that our businesses are doing, and so on and so forth. But we put on events all year long, from our downtown concert series, which is in Nisbet Park. When I say Nisbet Park is on the bike trail, it is right on the bike trail. It is an amenity to the bike trail. ODNR realizes that, helps us with grant funding to do improvements to that park. Again, one of the, Hearts of Fire is sort of goes on the Valentine's Day. We're a big Valentine's Day area, but if you would be at any of these events, you would see everything is centered around the bike trail. It is much more than just a trail where people are passing through. It is the main mode of transportation to get to our farmers market, to get to any of the businesses that you can imagine. Big part of what we do is we constantly add amenities. What can we add to this trail? Just to the left from the top was a recent bridge that was completed by ODNR. The trail was largely shut down for parts of 2024. They came to us and they said, Dave, we have an area that we're concreting. Why don't you come up with an idea? We thought, well, why don't we make it a bike depot, put the repair station, put the kind of benches they want, put the racks in there. And that's sort of the relationship we have. Again, part of this is you're coming through town. You have those simply who probably grumble, I just want to get through town, get out of my way. We sort of go with you're coming into town, we're going to enhance your experience. So what we do in terms of a big part of what we're going to do is we're going to try to improve that entire experience with the seating areas. That's actually a council member made all of these benches. This is at our town clock. We are a DORA, that's our entire open container. In Ohio, DORAs mean designated outdoor refreshment area. The DORA boundaries include the entire length of the bike trail in town, meaning if you want to get an adult beverage and walk along the trail, go to a park, go to any of our other restaurants, the breweries, the retail shops, you can do that. Nisbet Park, which is here in the lower right-hand corner, is getting a complete and total transformation. We're getting ready to announce a large grant we got to build a really state-of-the-art amphitheater in that far back corner that'll allow the city to have a much larger, bigger concert type events. These are seating areas that we've been added. That is the bike trail, and that is Nisbet Park. That's probably the best illustration I have of how Nisbet and the Little Miami Bike Trail are one. We work, another thing that we respect is safety. That's important, safety and access. So we did a road widening here on Harrison up top right, and we worked with ODNR to make sure we were putting the right domes, we were putting the right crossbars, everything we have, because part of the experience when somebody comes into the town is that it's also obviously a safe experience, and that's something we take pretty serious. And we actually have a guy, his whole job is being a downtown groundskeeper, and he keeps an eye on that. This was another, we worked with ODNR to create steps and access into the downtown district. Actually, we just recently, in fall of 2024, the city completed a new parking lot in the downtown district. And I just wanted to show you this map just to sort of show you how the proximity. We got a pretty large grant through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Obviously, a selling point on that grant was this helps the users of the bike trail. Parking can be a bit of a challenge in the downtown district. That's a bit of an understatement. So this brand new parking lot, which we were able to fund through a grant from the Appalachian region and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, 1.3 million. We got about 1.1 in grant funding, and the rest was covered by the city. Worked with the latest local power company to add the nice lighting and so on and so forth. This is a pretty new picture. A lot of this greenery has come in pretty solid. A big part of what the city did was we realized we should quit sort of shooting from the hip, and we did a massive planning effort for master plans, 3 of which were centered around the downtown district streetscape plan, Nisbet plan, and a downtown plan. And if you look at those plans, you'll see that every one of them focuses along the bike trail and how the bike trail can be enhanced. The top left is actually our downtown plan. This is the Nisbet Park Master Plan. That's the amphitheater I was talking about. It's much larger than that. And this is our streetscape plan about how it all blends together, how the trail and the usage and this, and how does that lead to one of the most other important components. This is actually just sort of wanted to show you how we're actually implementing the Nisbet Park Master Plan. This is the gazebo in the plan. These are the seating areas. That's our guys in the Public Works Department. And then, of course, what we're getting ready to do is unveil this large amphitheater, which will sort of really up our game on what we can bring in. The business aspect of it, that I'm probably not really emphasizing it enough. I'd love to give you a video tour of how every one of our businesses look at what is the opportunity and what they can do and how they can open their door. How they can open their door to the bike trail traffic and patrons and what that brings. We saw that during COVID. What could the city do to help every business going through COVID? This entire stretch of parking was changed to carry out. That was sort of the nexus of we need more seating, and then we keep adding it. That was the nexus to making our door a 24/7 and not just for special events. Let people come in, get their food and move on. We worked hand in hand with our communities to get through COVID. And I think that sort of cemented that ongoing, they know we care, they know we'll spend money, we know they'll do what we gotta do, and in turn they get to blossom. What we're also seeing is that the bike trail leads to an overall development, and we've seen more, we're beginning to see residential growth, which is good. It helps our businesses when the trail's not in use during the winter months. And we're seeing that more and more businesses are centering around the trail, Better Blend and Pliable, Narrow Path Brewery. This picture was actually taken while standing on the trail. This is their little habit trail things they use when the weather's bad. And this is all of these have complete access to the trail, healthy food alternatives. Loveland Station, lower left-hand corner is residential district, and we're seeing more and more of that. So in summary, what do? We realize that the benefits of trail largely supersede any financial responsibility. It goes large and behold, goes beyond just our downtown businesses. What we do in the downtown district and the bike trail actually impacts residential, not just for us, but our neighboring communities. We're about 14,000 people. There's about 70,000 between the 2 large townships. And partnerships. We can pick up the phone at any time and work with the friends. We're a Buckeye Trail community, and of course, ODNR. And again, at the end of the day, we try to enhance the total trail users experience, that this is a cool place. They want to come back and they want to go to our downtown businesses. So that's all I had. Didn't want to go too long.
Now that is great, Dave. Thank you so much. What a cool project. And so when did that start? When did Loveland really begin their trail project?
I feel like we started doing the planning efforts in early 2000, and that was basically after the fires. Those fires were devastating. If those buildings would have been destroyed, we're in a floodplain here. Those would have never been built back the way they were. City gave tax abatements, waived fees for fire flows, did everything possible to encourage that they came back and did what they needed to do. So those buildings, if I would show you before and after pictures of those buildings, all 3 of those buildings were in rentals. The restaurants were renting it. All 3 of those buildings are now owner occupied. All 3 of those buildings now have rooftop bars and have been completely transformed. The city bent over, did everything possible to work with them and to get them through the process, and tax abatement, everything we could do. And they're beautiful. And that sort of led to people saying, wait a second, this is a cool place. With the residential that we're starting to see, not just in the downtown district, but there's a whole circle where lots are doing infill development and people are buying, restoring it because they want to walk into the downtown district. We started to realize that college feel benefits our businesses year round.
No question. No, that's very cool. Just so our participants know, we are putting the links to the panelists' websites in the chat box. so that you can see them and you can visit those sites and bookmark them and go back. And some of these places you're going to want to visit. I know I do. So Dave, thank you so much for making the time. And if you don't mind hanging out for just a minute here, we'll be back with some Q&A. I want to introduce you to now Henry Mestetsky. Henry is the Director of Redevelopment for the City of Carmel and the Executive Director of the Carmel Redevelopment Commission, which, by the way, after you hear his story and see these pictures, you're all going to want a redevelopment commission, and you're all going to probably want to hire Henry. He has served in this role since 2017, but he's got a background in all sorts of different fields. Law, real estate, lending, mergers, acquisitions, et cetera, et cetera. So he is an expert in a lot of different areas. So Henry, thank you for joining us. Henry, Carmel, Indiana is an incredibly cool place.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Henry, tell us about Carmel.
Yeah. So Carmel had about 1,000 people after World War I. And it is a immediate northern suburb of Indianapolis. And so it was, always going to be the place where affluent people moved that had good schools, good police and fire protection. And it had a railroad that ran through the middle of town, but there was no activity or anything. So over the last 20 years, a rail to trail conversion has turned what we call our now trail that runs to the center of our downtown into our essentially waterfront beachfront property. So I'll show a couple pictures, a couple before and after pictures to kind of get the vision, the scope of how far we've come here. I'll jump back and forth between my browser and a PowerPoint. But let's just start here. So this area is called Midtown. We took the rail to trail conversion.
Hey, Henry, we're not seeing it yet, sir.
Yeah, here we go.
There you go. Thank you.
Sorry, wrong button. All right, so we took the rail to trail conversion. We widened it 140 feet. We put a boulevard on each side. So people visiting our Midtown today, and again, this is a trail that runs from downtown Indianapolis to like 3 more counties, but it runs through downtown Carmel. What you're looking at here is the trail was a city investment. My department does tax increment finance projects, public-private partnerships. So we've reoriented the development around this trail to face the trail, which is pretty crazy because usually, office buildings want to see high car counts on roads to decide where to locate their big sign. And here, this is now the front door. The trail itself is now the front door for these office buildings and these apartment buildings, which is kind of revolutionary in the middle of Indiana, if you think about it. So while the trail itself was a city investment, it was really kind of heavily curated public-private partnerships that led to the development on all sides of it. Many of these projects have structured parking in them. We basically have 3 redevelopment areas. What you're looking at now is called Midtown as you go up to our kind of main street. I'll separately show another video that is our just south of here called our city center area. But our focus on this trail and the development around this trail was intentional and singular, and is the reason why at this point our friendly neighboring suburbs come here to hang out. This has become like the walkable European downtown that frankly doesn't exist in a lot of places across America, and the trail is key to all of it. It is helpful that this is the kind of trail that you would have people on all the time anyways. But now, instead of just passing by here, they have a destination. So again, this is kind of our Midtown area. These office buildings are the highest priced office buildings in the state, rental-wise. This is Indiana. So $42 a square foot is as high as you would get in downtown Indianapolis. They're higher here because people are moving out of downtown Indianapolis and they want to be at these locations. this orange building you see on the left is a headquarters for a merchants bank, which is the fastest growing bank in the nation. This is, the whole game is about pulling talent, and this oriented development is frankly the key to all of it. So that's Midtown. I want to show off just south of Midtown is area called City Center. So the same trail that I was just, can you still see my browser?
Yes.
Okay, so that same trail that I was just showing is, if you can see my mouse, is here. So the same trail runs through the middle of the city, north to south, and we have been doing redevelopment projects, public-private partnerships, flanking the trail for like a mile and a half straight to get us. So this is City Center, for example. Here, the trail runs right here. This has now been widened as well. This is our Carmichael Autograph Hotel right here. This is our Palladium, which is a performing arts center. Again, you see the widened trail, and everything we do is oriented around the trail. I mean, this is pretty just let me just pause this right here. This gives you a very clear image of the development that has been done here for the last 20 years. And even in this image, you can see on the right, that's what Carmel used to look like 20 years ago. Low-level industrial, no downtown. We weren't the county seat. We had 1,000 people live here after World War II, so we had, at the same time, nothing to start with, but a blank canvas for redevelopment. And now, almost every building that you see in this walkable European-like environment, everything straddles the trail, and it's all new. By new, I mean really the last 20 years. This is an autograph collection hotel. It's the Indiana's first autograph. What you see here is the front door to it, except it has two front doors, because this door that takes you out to the trail is just as important as the front door that others might consider traditional for a world-class hotel like this. So at every step of the way, these are public-private partnerships. Oftentimes we're putting in land over the tax increment finance, so both land inputs and tax increment finance inputs, to get the level of architecture that we want. But everything is always about, let me skip forward back to the trail. Everything is always about how you interact. There's the trail. So Midtown that I was showing earlier is north of here, this way. Everything is about the proper interaction with the trail. And that's what gets these places, I mean, really highest rents in the state for multifamily, highest rents in the state for office, because there aren't really places like that that exist here. I want to show, we have a winter Christkindl market. This is a picture of our winter Christkindl market in City Center. There's the trail, if you can see my mouse. Everything we do is oriented around our trail. And our Christkindl market gets 400,000 visitors every year. Part of it is because how cool it is. Part of it is because people, especially in Indiana, are just not used to being in these kind of, I like to call them European locations, not to offend anyone, but European style urbanism and attention to detail that doesn't really, it's tough to find these places that look like this. Our third kind of redevelopment area is called, is our Main Street, which is north of Midtown. So, you know, the trail continues on past City Center, past Midtown, and you get into our Arts and Design District, which is here. But again, everything that we do is here oriented and flanking the trail, which is always busy. We hide the parking. We put the parking in the back. One of the things we do in our public-private partnerships is we make sure that garages are 75% free and open to the public. And so what you have as you're around the trail is you have about 10 to 15 parking garages within a 5-minute walk that are always free and open to the public to use. So just in this image here, there's a giant parking garage behind this office building. There's a giant parking garage behind this office building. there is a this is obviously a parking garage, which we as city development people can obviously tell this is a parking garage. But when I took my wife here for the first time, she was like, where do people park? Because we make sure that these parking garages have the kind of facades that make them blend in a little more. This French building that you see in the background here has a 2-level underground parking garage. This apartment building has a 500 space parking garage inside of it. All of that is public. And so it allows us, when the weather is nice, when the weather is not nice, really anytime, anyone can come here, have access to free parking and have access to the trail, which is what makes sure that these, our operators and the first floor businesses stay open year round, because we always provide them people. And really it's the trail that's the key to all of this. Let me, if I could, just quickly share a give me a second. Stop share. Here we go. Give me one moment.
So Henry, while you are finding that,
Oh, I'm back. Hold on, I got it, and then I'll answer questions. So, is this the wrong one? Wrong one. No, back to you.
this has been largely public initiated. The city of Carmel really initiated this, and that is what has served as the spark, the catalyst for this development.
Yes, every time.
And how long?
Very heavy-handed. I mean, 25 years, 20 years that we've been working on this. You know, Indiana is a strong mayor state that allows and has no share my screen.
And so was it a strong mayor that helped push all
It
of
was
this?
a strong mayor named Mayor Brainerd that was here for 25 years that made this happen. Everyone's seen the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have here, you can see the trail here on the left. This is a city center area. There's the Midtown area. You can see the water tower north of it. The trail runs through all of it. And so this used to be a city parking lot that ran up against the trail. We put a neighborhood here. As you're on the trail, you get to look through this breezeway towards the fountain. So we create moment after moment of you're on the trail, please go. This is a public space. Go enjoy these public spaces, but everything always ties back to these things sold at so much money. It's kind of crazy. This is what City Center used to look like 25 years ago. So that big performing arts center we were talking about, the Palladium, is on this piece of land right here, on this green piece of land right here. And there you can see the trail before it really got developed. This is a view from 2005, frankly, so 20 years ago. This was Carmel of old. And there's the trail. So where the Chris Kindle Market that I was just showing you, that's this location today, 20 years later. And it's been there it is. That's what it used to look like before. This is it now. And it's been a very heavily focused everything around the trail. So that's our city center area. This is just north of that. We're continuing to do projects. Both this is under construction and the trail expansion alongside of it is under construction now. We continue to do Midtown that I showed used to look like this. We hired Jeff Speck, a famous urban planner, to help us give us some ideas. We hired Jan Gell, a famous Belgian or Norwegian or Dutch urban planner, that helped us think through this. Everything was about reorienting the development around the trail. Had some crazy ideas like moving a water tower in the middle of a trail. No one has money for that. That's crazy. But for an architectural notion or a design notion, it had the right idea. So This right here is the Art and Design District, and city centers down here. And this was an industrial wasteland that smelled when you rode your bikes through the trail. I used to do this. I mean, this is 2010. This is 15 years ago. So then methodically, this was one side of it that became this kind of development. This was the other side of it that became this kind of development. Every step along the way, everything is about how to properly frame the trail and give it the right kind of public space. And in a suburb of Indiana, this is the kind of stuff that really surprises people. And as we move forward, every building interacts with the trail, and it really becomes, there's that Monon main project that was shown about. It's really the key to everything. So as the city builds out infrastructure, as our engineering department widens the trail, it's my job as the redevelopment director, put together public-private partnerships that respect the trail. And at first it was difficult, and now this is the highest priced office in the state. And where, you know, you have downtown Indy is great, and they have some great trails, but they also have some of the issues that plague larger cities these days that aren't found in the suburbs. Like, I mean, the unhoused is an issue everywhere, legitimately, but there aren't panhandlers in the suburb of Carmel that come up to you when you're on the trail, which is a issue that happens, you know, when you're in kind of larger cities, especially Indianapolis. And so I always like going back to that video of Midtown, because I think it shows how special of a transformation that has occurred in this city really over the last 20 years.
It tells the story.
So that's probably my time, and I'm happy to answer questions, and I'll stick around for the panel as part of that.
Henry, thanks so much. And you're absolutely right. The video really does tell the tale, doesn't it? And those images, what a transformation of these communities. And what's sort of exciting to me is that in a lot of ways, in Madison County, Illinois, much of the system is already built. There's already the MCT trail system represents a $60+ million investment in Madison County over the course of the last 30 years. So a lot of the infrastructure, the trail infrastructure itself is done. Now it's, you know, how do we extend the tentacles of our system, as I like to say, into neighborhoods, into communities, into commercial areas, and so on, so that the trails really do become, you know, this catalyst for development. So I gotta ask, and this is a question for you, Henry, for Dave, and that is, how do you convince elected officials that this is a worthwhile effort? I mean, I'm hoping to try to do that to some extent today, but how do you convince elected officials to make this kind of investment and to take a chance on trail-oriented developments?
At least for us, we had the benefit of, I don't think people were convinced. People were not convinced at first. I mean, there were protests. Let's see if I can.
Oh my.
Let's see if I can find this picture. Yeah. We have a new mayor now, so I'm not allowed to show this picture, but I'm going to show it. Just don't tell on me, everyone. I don't use this slide anymore. We have a new mayor. This is the old mayor 20 years ago. Can you see this image? Can you see these signs that they're holding?
Wow.
This is from our local newspaper 20 years ago, 25 years ago. These are people protesting the rail to trail conversion.
Oh my.
The protests were, again, I'm going to provide personal opinions here. There was some racism probably in the protests, where people literally thought that residents of the county below us from Indianapolis were going to walk up the trails, rob people's homes, and take the TVs down, use the trail to steal the TVs and take it back down to Marion County. Like,
Right.
people said stuff like that. And then their property values quadrupled when they had access to the trail, which is, you know, empirical evidence. But now that we started seeing the success, the story spoke for itself. So now when oftentimes when communities across the country, and especially in Indiana, when city officials want to help convince their counselors and their elected leaders that this is the right thing, they bring them to Carmel and they walk up that trail in that video that we talked about. And that tells the entire story. The feeling of being there and understanding what's been accomplished tells the entire story. And so that's show and tell is our answer.
Yeah. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, our mayor, they're all pretty well unified. The planning process that we did, our mayor is an incredibly dynamic lady. She gets it in every sense of the word. The planning process, we did a comprehensive master plan. And one of the things that came out of that master plan was that all of our subdivisions, one way or another, want to be connected into the downtown district. So they can get down to the downtown shops, and they get into the bike trail. And we have worked systematically at coming up with a process to use all existing sidewalks, find the gaps, fill in the gaps. So what we're doing goes well beyond the downtown district, but ultimately the goal is to get everyone in there. We just received funding we're very unique. We're in 3 counties, and we have a Warren County, which is the newer part of our city, and basically 4 large subdivisions not connected to the downtown district. We just secured grant funding that will connect every one of them into the downtown district, and that gets them right on the bike trail and just continues it. Our council and mayor have been in 100%. They understand what goes on in the downtown district feeds the TIF feeds more development feeds better things for the community. And we really benefit our neighbors, because a lot of people say they have a Loveland address. They don't actually live in Loveland. That's a very common question when somebody calls City Hall to complain. The ladies up front, the first question will be, let me first get your address, which is often followed by, ma'am, we're sorry, but you don't actually live in the city of Loveland. And a lot of what we do benefits surrounding communities. We're largely built out. I doubt my time left in the city I'll ever see another subdivision. We're built out. Now we're in the infill phase. So how do we control that? Putting in infill regulations. We were getting so much growth in our downtown district, we realized, wait a second, we should have a little more say. So we created historic preservation design guidelines. We put them in place, and that just recently turned down a large residential development. And because we feel like we should be able to say, look, if you want to come downtown, we should have a little more control over what it looks like. And I feel like the design regulations that benefit, and council's all in, they understand it. So.
That's great. That's great. Quick question for you, Dan. What makes, and you touched on this a little bit, but what makes the trail and for anybody attractive for a small business, for a locally owned small business? Why take a chance on the trail? And I loved what Henry said about 2 front doors. You know, that turns out a building can have 2 front doors, a front door that faces the trail and a front door that faces the parking lot. So Dan, Henry, Dave, anybody, tell me why a small business would want to locate.
I mean, exactly what you said. I think that's a perfect summary. We literally have 2 ways people come in. We have the trail parking, and you know, we're out in wine country, so we have people visiting, going to the wineries and coming back. So we have all kinds of cyclists. We have motorcycles parking in the front, and so we have leather coming in the front door and spandex coming in the back door. and I think that's great, and we have it's very family friendly. I think that needs to be an important part, because people love to just bring their family out there and use the trail. So that's
great. Henry, Dave, any other thoughts on why a small business would want to locate?
We're seeing we've always had a very steady bar, restaurant, hospitality businesses. What we're seeing now is the retail, the boutique shop, they're getting together, they're using the trail, they're doing sip and shops where they can serve wine and people, ladies can walk from the one boutique store to another using the trail. The Dora has been a big deal for the city, the outdoor refreshment area. I often get calls from other communities that are looking to do it, and I can tell the ones that don't want it, because they're saying, could you tell me all the troubles that has caused? And I go, I got nothing. I got nothing. We've had
Does Carmel have one of those as well?
The entirety of the trails in Adora.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a good thing.
I mean, to piggyback, I mean, we have like a Carmel Runners Club. They run on the trail and then they hang out at different bars. There's a million versions of this. Our friends in spandex you were just talking about, they'll ride for miles and they'll pick a place, probably Midtown, and go hang out. There are boutique places, like there's a candle making place, like a fancy candle making place that wouldn't survive in a strip center. Like it's fancy. It's a fancy candle making place. It's not the kind of thing that a bunch of people I don't think would drive to a strip center and park to do. But when you're having a people's hangout day, let's call it that, they walk the trail, they eat at a restaurant, they walk up the trail, and and then they go to a candle place. One of my favorite things, because there's a lot of really nice restaurants. There's mom and pop places, but there's a lot of really fancy restaurants that now flank our trail. And the Performing Arts Center flanks our trail. And so every once in a while, you'll see this thing where someone is having dinner at one of the restaurants and they don't drive, they walk down the trail to the Performing Arts Center. So you're on the trail and you're getting past in these ladies in the nicest dresses and these guys in tuxes, like they're at prom because they just had a nice meal and they're walking down the trail to the Performing Arts Center, which is quite abnormal and is really cool to see.
I'll add to that too. I think there's back to the question of why retail should be interested in that. There's an abundance of retail. I mean, you can get beer, pizza, food anywhere. What people are wanting is experience, and the trails give them an experience that's different than just going to a strip center.
Yeah, no question. So kind of a big picture question. What can a municipality or a public body do? What are some of the first steps that, especially in light of the fact that, MCT has built a lot of trails and there are development opportunities along trails throughout the county. What can a public body do to jumpstart? What are some good first steps?
To me, everything is about a district garage. And critical mass, because the Monon Trail goes from downtown Indianapolis to like 3 more counties. So there are always opportunities for a one-off bar or a one-off some sort of interaction. But there is something about, like, when you're in these European plazas and these spaces, about the people watching and about the energy and the vibrancy that comes with hitting critical mass. And it's tough to hit critical mass with parking lots, especially when land is so scarce these days. So in each of these districts, there are city public-private partnership led public parking garages that create the kind of critical mass that then creates everything else, which is why a building can have 5 or 6 different businesses on the first floor, because the city has partnered with private developers to make sure that the parking is there to sustain it. And that, as you saw in the videos, is how we've hit this looks like a European city vibe in this along this trail, and that only happens in this urban Carmel section of it.
And so the city of Carmel helped subsidize those parking garages.
That's right, TIF projects.
Yeah. Okay.
We spend a lot of time communicating with our businesses. We have a very open policy. They come in for coffee. I have a mass email, and we notify them everything that's going on. Hey, we're changing the street light. We do a lot of traffic. We're constantly trying to improve traffic in the downtown district. We're actually getting ready to signalize the main where our bike trail crossing. We'll be putting in signals for the cars and the pedestrians, because it brings traffic to a snarl. But we communicate with them to such a point, and we're so aggressive with grant writing that when we say to them, hey, we're going after some funding to do, let's just say the big parking lot, which is right outside this window, and letters of support from you would all be very beneficial. They literally walk them over to City Hall. They understand what we're trying to do. If they say, hey, Dave, some new recycling cans or bike racks here would be good, you listen to them. I know it sounds small, but it helps. And helping them realize that, dealing with signage, understanding the door rules when it first came out, the pliable, a new sort of smoothie place worked with us to get improve the seating. We're small enough that we can have a very intimate one-on-one relationship with all our businesses. And I think that sells to the other businesses that are looking to come in. We've just got a really more of a regional restaurant to move into our downtown called Earth and Ocean. They're in downtown Cincinnati and they're in Hyde Park. They just chose to come into downtown Loveland. That's a big deal for us to get somebody like that. And you talk to that owner and he'll tell you why he came here. And we think it's because we cater to him and we understand, we get it, we think, and I hope that helped, that resonates. The parking lot was a big deal. We really needed parking.
So you're both kind of speaking to something that I find interesting, and I'm a wannabe urban planner myself anyway. And that is, what are the, and forgive the geeking out here, but what are some of the, I mean, big picture policies and, ordinances that, I mean, does a city, a township, a county, whatever, need to look at their policies, their zoning, their whatever guidelines in order to help facilitate a meaningful trail-oriented development?
I will just say this because Carmel has a wonderful planning and zoning department, but the redevelopment department is separate. And I always want to caution people, zoning doesn't get you density. Only money gets you density. And the people that aren't in the city building world every day, that can sometimes be a misconception. But you can't zone a property and say, build 5 stories here with structured parking. Well, you could try, but nothing will happen. The city has to bring the public-private partnerships to the table and make them work, because that's the only thing that will deliver. Zoning can't fix a gap in someone's pro forma. It has to be the city willing to do partnerships to make it work.
Makes sense. Dave, any thoughts on that?
I think the big thing for us was the historic preservation guidelines. They weren't warmly received, and I pretty much own that. It worked in my former community. I just felt like we needed to take a bit of a stand. The mayor, of course, was very supportive, and it recently was a controversial part of the large residential development that it turned down and was actually appealed. I still think that over time the guiding and having some control on materials and aesthetics and signage, I can show you place after place after place where it had a positive impact, where zoning would not have caught the design guidelines and made it a better product. I think that was a big step for us, and it's a bit of a bold move for a community our size.
Yeah. What types of infrastructure? What are the infrastructure or the physical, components of a good trail-oriented development? Dan, I want to start with you. What do you think, from a business standpoint, are important physical elements to have as part of a development?
Well, we have, I think having multiple restaurants, if I think you mentioned earlier, like just having one spot on the trail, kind of in the middle of nowhere, I think makes it difficult. So having a collection of businesses that complement each other. We have a location in Augusta, and I don't know if you know the kind of the history of where Augusta has happened. It's been a kind of a interesting part of development that didn't go as well as we were hoping to go. But, in Defiance, we have the biker bars down the street. We have the burger joint. We have the wineries, and several of those are, you can go and then also walk to all those other locations too. Same thing in our Frenchtown. We're starting to get more development, but you nailed it too with the parking in our Frenchtown location. The city put in a parking lot for us next door. And without that, it would be very difficult for people to get here.
Let me just play this video one more time because I think it's helpful. What we found is that the access to the trail is great, but the ability for some retail to the fact that we have these two one-way boulevards around the trail gives the access to the retail for people to pull up and get some food and leave. That there's a reason why our city center is not as commercially vibrant, but Midtown is as commercially vibrant as it gets because we've added these boulevards around the trail. Now, I'll say this, these boulevards have speed limit signs. They're not necessary. Cars literally cannot go more than 10 miles an hour here. By the built environment, by the curb to curb here is like 9 feet or something crazy. Like these cars are crawling down these boulevards, but it's just enough to allow some delivery driver to pick up some food from a restaurant and be on their way. And that access to that road infrastructure, I think, is what really sets it off to the next level. Now, not everyone's going to have 144 feet of right-of-way, and I totally understand that. But it was quite impactful to see the difference but it doesn't add dangerousness because it's, again, these are the kind of environments where those drivers are crawling and they're looking in the eyes of every single person that they're passing by. So the design itself is what creates the traffic calming, but it really does help the commerce to be able to have the cars, very carefully make their way around this area for us as well.
Yeah. So we had a question come in the chat box about, many of the MCT trails, not only do they meander through communities, but they also go into the rural areas and on the outskirts of communities. Is it sort of your experience and maybe opinion that a development on the outskirts, even though it's connected to the trail, won't have the same impact? Or are there opportunities there? Any thoughts?
I mean, there's opportunities everywhere, right? But as I said, we've got some that are on the trail with other things going on, but the ones that I see, at least out in our area, the ones that are off by themselves don't do, they're not going to be as successful.
Yeah, you've really, I guess, got to be, to your previous point, Dan, be culture making. You've got to be giving people a reason to come there and to come back, and events and activities and so on and so forth. And hopefully even in some of the outskirts areas, there are multiple destinations. Okay. The term public-private partnerships have come up a lot, and it sounds like that is critical to a good trail-oriented development. Henry, you mentioned the Redevelopment Commission, that it's part of the city, it's of the city, but also a part of separate from the city.
Yeah, under our state law, state statute creates redevelopment commissions for every municipality that have a 5-member board, 3 of which are appointed by the executive. So it's an executive-led commission, but in Indiana to use tax increment finance, it has to be, votes of the city council, but also a vote of the redevelopment commission. So they are used to different extents throughout the state. In Carmel, the commission is staffed. So I have an architect and a finance guy and an urban planning person on my staff, and I have a legal background. And so we're staffed to the commission, and a lot of the economic, like the kind of harder economic development stuff, building related economic development stuff runs through the commission, but obviously we work with our engineering friends and our urban planning and our planning friends to all come up with these projects together.
And in Ohio, Dave, that is not the case. It is strictly
No,
city.
we typically, our biggest partners are the state agencies. Now, our downtown fire station, we are building a new one just up the street. And we are going to be selling our current fire station, which has been meticulously kept by the firefighters, but it has just outlived its usefulness. So we will utilize our CIC, our Community Improvement Corporation, to help with property transfer. That's a big part of what we do. We have a pretty vibrant tax abatement program in the downtown district. And that's a big part of what we do. And of course, we have to work with our school district and TIF and everything, but mostly we would use our CIC, which is getting ready to happen on the fire station transfer.
And so another term that's come up a lot today is TIF. So in large part, are most of these developments TIF funded?
They have to be. Most of what you've seen in the video, we put in the land and the TIF. Like, so the city council passed general bonds that is a land acquisition, has land acquisition abilities, that we then identify pieces of land, go back to the council, they say, yes, we buy the land, and then we put the land and the TIF into the deal to make the deal work, especially for like the foundational catalytic projects. Now we're doing more like infill between the projects where we don't need to give the land away anymore. But if you saw those images in the beginning where it's just grass, like that took the land and the TIF to get someone to build district garages. And so I have a finance background. I have a finance guy on my team. And so we vet these deals to make sure that the pro forma is as tight as it could be. And then we sell them to the council. And this is what it takes to make it happen.
Yeah. Is that your experience, Dave?
Yeah, the biggest TIF we have is our historic downtown TIF. That was put together by our former city manager, Tom Carroll. He really, I know the fires were a big part of what happened, but Tom really started it by doing the Loveland station, that's the apartment mixed use development. He put this whole thing together, a large amount of property purchasing, raising the properties out of the floodplain. That downtown TIF then helps fund what Tom did with putting that package together, actually helps us fund projects like the parking garage and other capital projects. I would think he'd be very proud to know what his efforts have led to. Tom has moved out of the town, but master of the TIF, he really was. So I'm sure he still is.
Yeah. Just had a question in the chat box. Given the high cost of today's bikes, security is a major concern. Oh, it went away.
We mandate in the garages that they put in bike rooms. There's cameras in the bike rooms that feed to the city IT and city police department. When we do those attached to multifamily projects, we get licenses that have the developers be able to look at the camera feeds as well as our police department. And so that really helps. But also if you have a $3,000 bike, you don't leave it in the bike room. You take it with you to the office.
Right. Yeah. So some steps are being taken to accommodate, bike safety, bike parking and so on. Yep, that makes sense. Good. Do we have any other questions from the participants? Anything else, Henry, Dan, Dave, that you guys want to add? I really, by the way, appreciate your time. I know everybody's busy and this has been really helpful for me. I know we had over 80 attendees, participants, zooming in to hear your stories today. And so I'm grateful for them for making the time, but anything else that the three of you would like to add?
I think I said enough.
Okay, very good. Well,
every trail needs beer. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
You can't name me one successful trail that that doesn't have beer? I'm curious if that, all of their successful stories, there's beer involved. So there we go.
There you go. I like it.
Good way to end.
Very good. Well, again, thank you to our participants, Henry, Dave, Dan. Appreciate your time. For everybody who zoomed in, thanks for being here today. Encourage you to visit our website, mcttrails.org, for more information. By the way, if you have somebody who wants to see this presentation, we have recorded it and we can pass it on. Also on our website, be sure to request, can't see it. Be sure to request, there it is, our new MCT Trails map, which you can do, as well as our new critter books. You can go out and find all of our trail critters on the MCT Trails. We've got a great new critter adventure book that has been prepared by our talented team. So please check that out as well at mcttrails.org. Again, thank you, everybody. And it's a beautiful day. So I hope you get out and enjoy the MCT Trails today. Take care.